I'm Ken Apperson. This is Live Music Showcase on WMNF Tampa 88.5. Thank you guys so much for being here today. It's a real treat for everybody here at the station, everybody in the studio. The second we put the word out on social media, everything just was, oh my God, it's amazing. Alt J is here in the studio. How you guys doing?
We're very well. Thank you for having
good.
us.
Thank you.
They're playing a show tonight at the Yingling Center with Portugal the Man. If you don't have your tickets already, you should definitely look into getting some tickets because, man, that's going to be a heck of a show. I like the way that the marketing is for that. You guys are doing the whole versus thing. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's the rivalry is real.
It's real.
Yeah, we do fight each other on a regular basis.
Physically.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, so you just hide the bruises underneath the clothing.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
how-
exactly.
Yeah, not the face.
That's
Yeah.
smart. That's smart. It's
Yeah.
good strategy on both parts. You got to be camera ready after all.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we're doing a full production here today in studio. We really appreciate the band being here on the show. We're going to dig into a little bit of what makes Alt J tick, and we're definitely going to learn a little bit about the story behind their brand new album. You know, I over the past week, I've really dug into the new album, and the big takeaway from it that I got is that it at least comes off as being very intentional in the way that you write your music and the way you compose your music. There are some musicians, they'll write a piece of music and then everything else just kind of like falls into place, whether it sounds perfect or it just lands that way. But the intention is clear. So when it comes to writing with that level of intent and attention to detail, how do you write like that without second guessing yourself, without essentially favoring one part over another and then just going round and round in circles and nothing gets done? How do you do that?
I think it's difficult. Sometimes we do feel in the studio that we have to try to avoid cliches in some way.
Sure.
That's happened to us in the past. Not too often, I'm glad to say. It happened on our third album. But
Yeah.
I think we struggled with one song in particular. But I think ultimately we let the song really dictate where it wants to go. We see what the song sounds a bit like, and we're not afraid of trying to experiment with different genres and things. On this new album, we try out some kind of house music. We try out some blues, operatic kind of stuff, and ultimately nothing's off limits, and that's quite refreshing, and that keeps things fresh, I think.
I think also we rarely find ourselves in a situation where we have to problem solve a song. I think.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's like Gus was saying, we had a song called Adeline on the third album, and we were writing it, and it sounded like a derivative of what we do. It kind of sounded like Alt J Light, and we didn't know how to get ourselves out of that rut. So we had to really sort of like get in a room and as a committee kind of discover what those kind of potholes were within the song and actually thinking about it. And that's actually something that we don't do that much. That's why it was so
distressing.
Distressing. Yeah.
So when that happened, did you guys find yourselves in a lot of conflict with each other in terms of opinions, or were you all just kind of in agreement? We're like, we got to do this, this, and this, and that's going to get us out of this?
There was definitely a little bit of conflict, I would say, yeah. I think that's why it's good to have a producer, and we've always worked with our same producer, Charlie Andrew. He's produced all the records, and we kind of really trust him at this point. And I think, generally it helps because, there's three of us in the band, and obviously, three, you can have two against one, but sometimes it doesn't feel very nice if two band members and one band member are disagreeing. So it's good to have Charlie there to kind of almost like mediate and, sort of say what's going to happen. And generally we end up agreeing with him.
I love that. Oh, sorry. Were you going to?
No, I was just nodding.
Yeah. So, and then after that, did you find that you learned something about your process that then helped you write more efficiently in the future, or was it just like that was a one-off thing? We don't necessarily have to worry about it as much.
I think what we've discovered is the fluency of writing and structuring songs fluctuates, and sometimes you can have like 3 months of just really effortless writing, and other times you just can't think of anything, and it's just that ride that you go on with your brain, kind of like that unconscious thinking, and sometimes it's on your side and sometimes it's not there. Yeah.
I love that. We have so many acts on the show. A lot of them are local, a lot of them are undiscovered, and some of them are even just brand new. And that's a thing that we hear a lot of, that they're just like, man, we get stuck in these like feedback loops, and we just can't seem to break out of them. So I really appreciate that insight, because
the trick is to not worry about it.
Really?
Because it's this undulating sort of process. So if you're at a trough, and you'll find a peak at some point, you just have to be patient, and you have to not think about the fact that you can't think of ideas, because it is a way of your kind of creative mind just being like, I'm a bit depleted right now. And you go to a gallery, or you go watch a film, or you read a book, or you have a conversation with your partner, and anything within that process can stimulate a new train of thought that could lead to new writing. So you just have to kind of just relax, I think.
I love that. I think that's sage advice. So tessellate and triangles. And I'm not going to ask you what your deal with is triangles, because I'm sure you've heard that question plenty of times. But are you guys in the Illuminati?
Well,
That's a joke, of course.
we have to say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Publicly.
Exactly.
Of course.
You know.
Yeah. Wink, wink. I love it. Perfect. So speaking of conspiratorial, horrible things that exist in the world here and there, there's been a lot going on overseas right now. With the developments happening every single day. We just had no idea what was going to happen before the show today. So glad you guys are here. You guys made an announcement that you were canceling your tour dates in Russia in light of the actions that Russia and the Russian president have taken.
Yeah.
How hard was it to make that decision?
Actually, not hard at all. I think you know, it's not a nice thing to have to do. You know, and it's always a difficult one, because you know our fans in Russia are not the people who are invading Ukraine. You know, but ultimately, I think when you go and play in a country, you know, that is a tacit sign of, I suppose, approval of that country and the way it runs itself. Of course, that can never be completely true. We don't agree with everything that, you know, several countries we play and do, including our own country. You know, I mean,
Sure.
You know, we're not huge fans of our own government, and obviously, you know, America doesn't always, you know, get it right. But I think with a thing like this, with, you know, the images we've been seeing from Ukraine, and it's particularly shocking for us, given that we've played in Kiev. You know, like, we've been there, we've got, you know, friends there, and it's a you know, it's a hard thing to say, because I mean, of course, every life is important, and there's conflict all over the world all the time. But you know, when you've been to a place and you've seen it just as this peaceful, beautiful, historic city, and then, you know, see the images we're seeing now, it's very upsetting. And I think it made making that decision to cancel the Russian gigs quite easy, actually.
When it comes to, you guys are, I'm sure you guys watch the news, and the division that exists in the States right now between, like, the different factions. And we're not going to dive too deep into politics, but how surreal is that division compared to elsewhere in the world? Because, I mean, you guys have gotten to travel all around the world and seen how people are firsthand, different cultures, different styles, things like that. When you see how strangely divided we are in this country right now on subjects that really you'd think inherently wouldn't have that much division, how do you guys respond to that as people from the UK? And how does the UK respond to that?
Well, I suppose in every country there's like a polarization sort of through kind of the way in which you approach living and supporting local government and government in general. I think we're seeing it more in America, and I for us it was, I suppose it was quite upsetting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Seeing people politicizing things like the pandemic, which should be something that would really need a united front. That was hard to see.
I mean, you know, I think Britain, in some ways, where America goes, Britain follows, you know, and we're not currently at a point, I think we're not quite as polarized in the UK politically as perhaps things are here, but, you know, I do fear it could go that way. And, you know, I suppose we'll just have to see.